Good evening, welcome to the Bloggers Magazine on I-24 News, where we bring you a different perspective on social stories and trends from the Middle East. This week, in honor of the World Cup, we're going to talk about money, corruption, and scandals in the world of football, as we try to answer the question, has professional football lost its soul? For our discussion today, we're joined by sports blogger Ouriel Daskal. Hello to you.
Hi.
And screenwriter and football fan Itay Reicher.
Good evening.
Good evening. As in every week, we start our show with 3 unique stories that caught our attention from around the world in just 60 seconds.
Darwin has finally landed in Israeli schools. Until now, his theories of evolution have only been taught in elective biology courses or by teachers who believed it necessary. But now, all middle school students in both state religious and secular schools will learn how humans evolved from monkeys. Committee Chair Nava Ben-Zvi told Ynet that evolution is one of the pillars of science essential for budding scientists in the country. The Syrian Campaign, a global civilian activist group, has accused Mark Zuckerberg via video parody of accepting money from Bashar al-Assad. The Sawa Facebook site, which campaigns for uniting with Assad, has attracted more than 200,000 likes, and ads for the Sawa page briefly appeared on Facebook before Facebook canceled the campaign. But now the advocacy group wants Facebook to donate the money generated from the ads to helping Syrian children. In an extreme case of mistaken identity, a zoo worker at Tenerife's Loro Park Zoo was dressed as a gorilla when he was shot with a tranquilizer dart by a zoo vet. Fortunately, after 3 days in the hospital, the employee is fully recovered.
So I'm not sure how much we evolved if we end up shooting people in gorilla suits.
Now we have to guess which story is a complete lie. This is some sort of game.
I think the guy in the gorilla suit won the Darwin Award.
Yeah, certainly.
It really doesn't matter what they teach in Israeli schools. Because
why not?
Because the students are anyways with their smartphones underneath the desk watching the Big Brother. So whatever they choose to teach, it doesn't really matter.
All right, good. That's something we can fall back onto. Let's keep going. Over the past decade, one of the largest football leagues in Israel is an amateur league run under the name Football State. With over 1,200 teams, the league swears by an inspiring motto: there are no referees and no violence. Everyone gets along and has fun. For more on this pure football organization and how it was founded, here's today's portrait by Ron Friedman.
Over the last quarter of a century, football has changed. Money, scandal, violence, and corruption have replaced what was once a pure game. But on this pitch, something different is happening. Welcome to the Football State, where you won't find any sponsors, any violence, and no referees. 12 years ago, Jonathan Gal and a group of his friends decided they wanted to upgrade their weekly neighborhood pickup game, and the idea of Football State was born.
There was always this fantasy of being like the superstars, like the Cristiano Ronaldo, and dressing up in a nice uniform and playing on a good, nice pitch.
What started with 6 teams quickly grew in popularity, and today, the Football State is a nationwide phenomenon, featuring 2,000 teams and more than 10,000 players.
I mean, it's okay if they're overweight and over 40 and smoke and, they're not in the best shape. The game itself stays very pure, very schoolyard, very pickup, very neighborhood type game.
One of the most notable things you notice when watching these guys play is the absence of the referee's whistle. All Football State games are self-officiated. When someone asks for a foul, they're given it.
You want to find the right balance between how competitive it is and how good vibes it is and how cool it is. And sometimes people get too excited, but the norm of behavior in Football State is very clear. If you're violent in any way, you're out of the organization.
Tal Koppel, a UPS worker and a right-wing political activist, started playing with his brothers.
I'm not as talented and gifted as I wish it would be. But, well, in every team there's this black horse who walks all day long and runs after everyone, even though he's not the best. I think Gattuso was one of those in Italy, so Maybe I could have been in another lifetime a Gattuso style in Israel.
Football State also provides an opportunity for all sectors of Israeli society to come together.
So you have Orthodox religious Jews, Muslims and Christians, and immigrants from all over. It's not like we're an organization that decided to go out and make peace between all parts of society. But we just wanted to play football.
We had some games against Arab teams. I have no problem. You name everyone. Football is football. You don't have any identity except being a player against another team. And this is one of the most favorite things. I wish politics was as fun as soccer.
The players here may fantasize of playing like the greats they see on TV, but for Gal, their version of the game is much more authentic.
People playing in that level, sure, they're good players, and maybe deep down inside, it's exactly the same for them like playing with their friends on the beach. But we're looking at a huge industry, very commercialized, and I think what we're doing is like the real pure football.
All right, so when we see this football state, which is beautiful, it has really pure football, as they said, and I know, Itay, you play in the football state, it only makes this question, you know, even more difficult. Has professional football lost its soul?
I'm not sure if it ever had a soul, and maybe its soul was always about money and corruption, but professional football is not something that stands for anything else but, you know, a huge multi-million-dollar business, and I like it just the way it is, by the way.
Okay, we'll get back to that a little later. What do you think?
I'm thinking that one of the big problems of professional football and grassroots football, as we've seen, is that we've lost a sense of why are we playing football. Professional football, it's about money. It makes sense. Mm-hmm. It's, you know, it's called professional football, meaning
people need to make a living.
Yeah, you make a living out of football, which is okay, which is fine. Mm-hmm. It's excellent. Okay, but you need this connection to the grassroots football, and you need this pyramid of large, healthy involvement of the society in football, because without that you don't have professional football. Right. And I think people in professional football world have lost that. They don't understand. They need the guys downstairs.
Yeah, but it seems that Itay is happy about that. You don't miss the love of the game?
No, I'm being radical for the sake of the argument, but I think that the reason we're talking right now on Wednesday about the corruption in football is because the World Cup is 24 hours away. And in 24 hours, we're going to talk about some Japanese striker that we don't know anything about right now, or a German midfielder that we have never heard of, or an amazing save or an amazing mistake by a referee. Every World Cup, there's this ritual about talking about how the game has gone bad. And like, for example, this week's the Economist cover issue is beautiful game, ugly business. Mm-hmm. And of course, because they have to sell newspapers about the World Cup. Everybody wants to read about the World Cup, and the game hasn't started yet.
Well, it's I don't think that before the France '98 World Cup, people talked about the corruption in football, and I don't think before the 2002 World Cup in Japan and Korea, people talked about corruption. And so it's the same in Germany.
The situation certainly deteriorated over the years. Let's take a quick look at this clip from John Oliver's show on HBO about the World Cup.
Soccer or football, like we say, it's a religion.
But it's not just that. It's an organized religion, and FIFA is its church. Just think about it. Its leader is infallible. It compels South American countries to spend money they don't have building opulent cathedrals, and it may ultimately be responsible for the deaths of shocking numbers of people in the Middle East. But for millions of people around the world like me, it is also the guardian of the only thing that gives their lives any meaning.
I wish I could say it so well. Ouriel, I'm curious, are you going to watch the next World Cup, or should we ban it?
Well, I'm going to watch the World Cup. My job.
That's obvious.
Yeah, my job is covering the.
What about
games.
the Qatar World Cup?
The Qatar World Cup is something I'm not going to watch. The corruption is just a part of how wrong this World Cup is. We're talking about 400 dead slaves already. A year dying for building stadiums that are not going to be used after the World Cup, which the World Cup itself.
Even the World Cup, exactly.
Yeah, it's going to move to the winter, mash up the whole football season just because some 25 guys from FIFA who are corrupt, some are proven as corrupt and the other are corrupt but not proven yet, took money from the Qataris to host the World Cup in a 50, in the summer of a 50 degrees summer. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Another point is, it might be easier to not watch the World Cup than you'd expect because it's getting harder and harder to find free ways to watch the World Cup. In many countries, it's now not aired on free channels. What do you think about that?
I think the World Cup in most countries is quite easy to watch on free channel because it's just the way it is. The problem is more in local leagues,
right,
the Premiership and even the Liga. I think maybe some of it is pay-per-view.
Yeah, the Liga has a rule that one game must be free air. But I mean, let's look at the Brazil World Cup. Let's look at the numbers, and I think John Oliver showed exactly what the sentiments are, but the numbers are showing that FIFA, which organizes the World Cup, is a parasite. It takes a host like every other parasite. It makes it, it sucks the living blood out of it because for it to make the World Cup happen. We look at the numbers. As Brazil are going to spend at least $14 billion on the World Cup, and the price is going to go up because the maintenance of the stadiums, which some are not going to be used after this World Cup, is millions a year. The return is you can't even say there is going to be a return because let's look at South Africa, which spent just $5 billion on the World Cup. Their return is about $500 million.
Yeah, it rarely covers it, and unfortunately, it doesn't end there. Let's take a look at yet another new troubling aspect of the business of football in today's post.
These days, one can invest in gold, uranium, and football players. Turns out hedge funds invest in them like any other commodity. One morning, Eliakim Mangala from FC Porto was reading the paper when he discovered that a Malta-based hedge fund had bought a third of his share capital and 10% more is owned by Robbie Pless, another hedge fund. The deals were signed without his knowing or consent, and the companies now have a share in all of his future transfer fees, as if he's a piece of property with increasing value. There are 1,000 such players in the world that are partly owned by investment funds, which is forbidden in France and England, but permitted in Spain and Portugal. UEFA is considered forbidding it, but will they dare? This year, their practice will generate 12.5 billion euros in profits, so it's no wonder it attracts so many wolves and that the words corruption, tax fraud, money laundering, and criminal conspiracy have become so common when talking about world sports. UEFA is timidly trying to stabilize European football's finances. It's their last-ditch effort to purify football and return to its roots of sweat, footwear, competition, and poetry.
When the seagulls follow the trawler, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
All right, so basically it's a question of morals, I think, because there's a lot of money in professional football. We said that already, and it's okay for some money, but the amounts and the briberies and everything, the bribes.
We're such party poopers, I really mean that. I get the World Cup every 4 years of my life, right? I'm 36 years old, but actually my real age is 6 World Cups old, right? That's my true age.
Yeah, and now we're trying to ruin
tomorrow,
it for you.
And I'm worried about football and corruption and money all these 4 years long because I'm an avid football fan. But once the World Cup starts, I don't care if they play with like stacks of money in their hands and visible cocaine signs in their nose. because it's really a once in a four-year celebration.
Ruin is fun.
I'm not going to ruin the fun, because it is fun watching football, but we have to remember that people are making a lot of money for it. And we have the decisions when it comes to immoral places like Qatar, not to watch the games there, or to know exactly what's going on behind the scenes is very important for us as human beings to make a decision if we're going to enjoy something, or we're going to enjoy something and know that someone else suffers.
I feel exactly the same as you, but in the end of the day, I know I'm such a sucker and I'm going to watch everything. Everything.
I can't think of a more perfect line to finish on. Thank you, Itay, so much. Thank you, Ouriel, as well. And thank you at home for joining us. I hope you enjoyed watching our show and that you'll enjoy watching the World Cup despite everything. Please be sure to join us again next week for a whole new Bloggers. Bye-bye.